Is financial procrastination real? What's up? My name is Lindsay. I am a certified financial therapist and licensed clinical social worker. And here on Mind to Money Balance, I'm here to tell you a little bit more how money and mental health intersect. Today, we're covering financial procrastination, what it is, why we experience it, and also, don't worry, some tips you can use to help cope with it. So first and foremost, I am not here to shame you for experiencing procrastination. Procrastination is normal, and according to some studies, it came to us from an evolutionary and protective place. Procrastination is putting off something that you need to do. And when it comes to financial procrastination, the problem is that putting off something that we need to do can have longer term ramifications. If we put off filing taxes, we might get hit with a fee. If we put off negotiating a raise, we might miss out on years of higher income. So it is really important to do some of these financial tasks, but they can be boring and tedious, which makes sense as to why we would want to procrastinate. I want to share a couple of different things that I have learned about procrastination since becoming a therapist. In a 2013 study about procrastination, it was discovered that there is this procrastination loop that happens because we really focus on what is happening in the moment and what feels good right now. Procrastination, when we do it, we are actually rewarded for not taking action on the task that we know we should be taking action on because it feels really, really good to not do the thing that is overwhelming us. And thus, it creates this negative feedback loop. And what is really interesting is that when it comes to money, it's really hard for something to show up right now or be different right now, especially if we're thinking about something long-term like saving up for an emergency fund or investing in retirement. The changes you make today, you might not see for months or even decades, which makes so much more sense as to why so many of us engage in financial procrastination. Some of the hypotheses about why we procrastinate in terms of it being a protective mechanism. One hypothesis from Dr. Sherrod Paul said that we procrastinated back when we were kind of living in caves and living in the forest. We would procrastinate to really focus on getting our tool right or getting our clothing right so we wouldn't venture out until we had everything exactly right. And that was a protective mechanism because it helped people to avoid conflict. Another hypothesis that I've heard is that the reason we procrastinate was to get us to do the things we didn't want to do, which sounds so counterintuitive. But the way that this was explained to me was that in the days when we were hunters and gatherers, when we had kind of used up all the resources in one area and we had to go to another area to find resources, the way that we would kind of procrastinate, the little white lie we would tell ourselves is, oh, that village isn't that far. How many of us have done a version of that when we procrastinate? Oh, this task won't take too long. Oh, this task isn't too hard. So we would procrastinate by saying, oh, I think that walk to that next village is only a day or two. Even though we maybe knew in the back of our minds that it was really a 5-day walk, it was much harder to convince everybody in our community that, hey, we need to pack up and go on a 5-day walk versus saying, hey, let's pack up and go on a 1.5 or 2-day walk. Make sense? Well, I share that to say that there are reasons that we procrastinate. Who knows what the actual reason is, or actually maybe some of you anthropologists will have an idea and will come at me in the comments and tell me why I'm wrong. But let's talk about the way that financial procrastination can show up. It can show up by avoiding doing a task that we need to do, not starting because you worry you won't do the task the right way, lying to ourselves, I already shared this one, this isn't going to take that long or this won't be that hard. Putting off things like filing your taxes if you're self-employed, invoicing your clients, things like that. Avoiding taking necessary steps to get big picture things in place to help protect you. Things like getting a will, a trust, or life insurance in place, or continuing to overspend because it feels really scary to create a sustainable spending plan. So the next time you experience that wave of procrastination, let's talk about some different tips that you can use to help dial down that procrastination so you can take action. I'm all about some short-term, healthy, loving distraction. The way that I think about this is distraction is sitting down to watch a Netflix show. It gives your brain and body, 20, 30-minute break. And then after that 20, 30-minute break, you can get back to the task at hand. Distraction turns into procrastination after several Netflix shows when you have been sitting on the couch for 2.5 hours and that distraction has suddenly turned into something else. A distraction is great to kind of clear your mind, to kind of shift your nervous system, to help transition from maybe work to a task at hand, or from putting the kids to bed to a task at hand. Great short-term distraction things are things like taking a walk, listening to a podcast, baking, cooking, maybe even doing some chores like folding some laundry. But anything that you can do, just kind of shake up and create a transition from one activity to another, can actually really help. So that's totally great to distract yourself short term, to build up the energy to take action towards doing whatever financial task you've been putting off. The other thing that you can do is the eat the frog method, and that is where you do the worst thing, the thing that you are putting off the most first. Sometimes this works for me, sometimes this doesn't. Everybody's different. Some people are huge fans of eating the frog and doing the worst thing first. I am more of a fan of the next tip, which is do the easiest thing first. So whatever is the shortest task, the simplest task, the easy task, that's the one I usually choose. And the reason for this is that doing that task actually tells your brain, hey, I'm capable of doing tasks. That didn't take so long, and it can help to build momentum to do other tasks. So if you have an easy task that has been on a sticky note, just moving around with you from your desk to your laptop to your refrigerator, maybe it's time to just take a look at whatever's on that sticky note, make that call, do that thing, and get it over with. If you are a little bit competitive, you can use a timer or a clock. I've shared some of these tips in my video about ADHD and money, but these ones can be helpful with procrastination too. One is like racing against the clock, so setting a timer for 30 minutes or 40 minutes and seeing how much of a particular task you can get done. Alternatively, you can use the timer to say something like, I will research this thing until the timer goes off. Because often with procrastination, we get into the weeds researching things. Maybe one of our financial tasks is to open up a high yield savings account. While we get in the weeds trying to research which high yield savings account is the best high yield savings account, and we can kind of forget that the point was to open an account, not to research all of them. Another time-based trick is to tell yourself, I'll just work on this thing for X number of minutes. I'll just work on this task for 10 minutes. This is kind of akin to the tip that people say to go to bed in your workout clothes, so that when you wake up, you're already in your workout clothes and you're ready to go. I can't sleep in workout clothes, but maybe you can and it works for you. But this is kind of the same idea, is to reduce friction towards actually moving toward whatever that financial task is. And so just telling yourself, I'll just work on this for a few minutes and see what happens. What we know is that after a few minutes of working on that task, you might find that you're kind of getting in a groove, or maybe it's not as hard as you thought and you were able to move towards completing that financial task. Another tip is body doubling, or maybe working in public, or having an extra set of eyes, ears, whatever around you. That external accountability can be super, super powerful to say, hey, I need to complete this task. Telling somebody out loud what you are working on and having somebody kind of hold you accountable can be really helpful. For some people, they love working on a financial task in a public space because it maybe help you to kind of hurry up and figure it out. If it works for you to work in a coffee shop or in a public space, go for it. Just be a little bit extra cautious. If you are doing things that involve like your bank account information, like I wouldn't necessarily open up a bank account on shared Wi-Fi. Like that just to me is ripe for people stealing your stuff. But you could certainly research things like a high yield savings account in public. Other things to do is to get comfy being good enough at the task at hand in order to make a decision. So rather than feeling like you have to have everything exactly right, a good enough is a good enough start. And finally, reward yourself, celebrate, actually pat yourself on the back when you complete a task or even when you move toward a task. As I mentioned, procrastination around money is so challenging because changing something right now, we won't necessarily see or feel the impact of that change for months or years to come. So it can be super important to celebrate those milestones along the way or celebrate the tasks that you've done. Oftentimes when we're doing money-related goals, we'll do things like, I want to save $10,000, but we won't necessarily celebrate, ooh, I saved $500 today, or I saved $100 today. We just wait until we hit that $10,000 mark, and we forget that we need to celebrate incrementally along the way. And doing those incremental celebrations can help you to push back against financial procrastination. I hope these tips help you out. If you are experiencing financial procrastination and you have a very specific question you want me to answer, all you have to do is go to mindmoneybalance.com/ask and you can submit a question that I might answer here on my channel. With that, I'll see you in the next video.